What's up everybody? Tom here with another video. In today's video, we'll be discussing everything to do with the stock market for the week ahead. We'll also be taking a look at this particular chart and breaking down why it's still the one to watch when it comes to our technical analysis levels. We'll be covering the S&P 500, Nasdaq, Bitcoin, dollar index, Tesla, and more through this video. And I tell you what, jobs numbers are coming, but there's something a little bit strange about these job numbers, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. April, history repeating? Stay tuned. So guys, because this is our weekend video, I thought it might be good to have a quick look at the week past in terms of what actually happened on the markets with all of those ups, downs, trials, and tribulations across the board. Notice some of the technology sector actually was doing well. Things like Adobe, Oracle up quite heavily. Energy sector spiked through the Suez Canal stuff. And we actually saw the banks end flat after having some big rotations both ways, thanks to the Fed and the lifting of restrictions. It really was about different sectors though. Take a look at the utilities, take a look at real estate. All of these sectors did very well. But when we analyzed Friday, boy oh boy was that a super interesting analysis. We had movement up initially in the markets, followed by lacklusterness, followed by selling near the close, and then a big bull run through into the end, with almost every single market across the board having a really strong recovery into the weekend. That shows me that Wall Street came out to play and they were like, no, retail traders, we've trapped you for long enough this week. Now it's time to get some nice bullish closes in. We'll be going through those closes and what they mean for next week. Technology actually ended up 2.54%, and it was the leading sector. Who would have thought it when we had so much weakness on Thursday, Wednesday, etc. This just points time and time again to Wall Street manipulating the options at the moment. And if it's your first time in options, be very careful through when you're trading these, because options expiries and manipulation coming into these events seems to be rife throughout the markets at this stage. So when you're trading or investing in the stock markets, it's really important that we understand which months are good and which months are poor. And February tends to be a relatively weak month, which we talked about on this channel, and it turns out we were correct. We also knew March was a very choppy month and could be dangerous, and it certainly was up, down, and all around, with very little actually going on near the end. And then we've got April here, which of course is the strongest or one of the strongest months of the year to be invested in the stock market. If we scroll down here, you'll notice that even over the last kind of like 10, 12 years, April has actually performed one of the best and strongest numbers. Now, this number is skewed a little bit due to the pandemic April month returns, but it's still very, very strong. November also usually a great month. And as per other things, July and August are usually great months as well. So do we want to be invested in April? That's the question. What's the technical analysis telling us as a community? We'll have a look at that in just a few moments. But I thought it was worthwhile also covering some of the news that may be discussion points for the week ahead. One of them is, of course, clearing this damn ship in the Suez Canal. Look, if they continue not to be able to clear this ship, look at it stuck down here, fully wedged between. Until they get this done, it is doing damage to the economies. And look, the stock market can see past this. I'm sure that it will rally once it eventually does clear through. But just remember, if it does get stuck, and let's say this goes on for another 2 weeks or something, it will start to dent the market. Do I expect it to be that long? No, I expect them to have it cleared at some point soon. But this is the type of thing that you do need to pay attention to if it continues to be a problem. We also have to ask the question as well of, will individual investors be sticking around through the next couple of months, through the next year? So I've got a question for you guys. Are you going to stick around in trading and investing? If you're new here and you're new to investing and you haven't been around for 12 years like me, or some of the other people out there that have been around for 30 or 40 years, are you planning on trading for the foreseeable future? Because it's actually a really important question that I don't think we ask enough of. Look at this spike of retail investors that came through in 2020 into 2021. This is real volume, and it actually contributes to certain successes out there. Of course, a lot of millennials, a lot of new investors are looking forward to certain companies that are changing potentially the way we see stock markets moving forward, effectively disruption companies. If this type of investment continues forward, I see those companies doing quite well due to these reasons. But if we lose the retail herd and we lose the retail community, then that is going to be a big drawback for these types of ones. So history would say that a lot of people will drop off, but are you staying around and are you in it for life? Tell me down below. Let's also talk about this Friday jobs report number. I tell you what, this is going to be a big one because it actually won't be open. So very rarely do we have a stock market that isn't open with a jobs number. And of course, this is non-farms payrolls. If you're not familiar with this, it's pretty much the biggest jobs figure and the biggest number that we get every single month, usually the first Friday every single month. I'll still be going live to have a discussion about it as we get the number through, but realistically, it's very rare that it doesn't have the stock market open with it. This is because of Good Friday. Look at this, April 2nd scheduled. It has not happened since 2015, April 3rd, since the last time the market was closed. Is this important? It probably makes for a pretty wild Thursday, and I think you need to be aware of that when you're trading in the US. But do remember this one thing, usually leading into, and this has got a bit of news event, but usually leading into public holidays and long weekends, we see a green stock market week. I repeat that, a green stock market week generally into these kind of events or these kind of public holiday areas. So just always keep that in the back of your mind. Thanksgiving week, notoriously green. There's a lot of things that happen around these public holidays and they always tend to be pretty positive. Let's get stuck into the technical analysis now, as I know many of you guys are here for this. Let's talk about this volatility index, 18.9, closure down here at the 18.9 really settles the score of, okay, we're done with the 20 for now. Take a look at the weekly here. That is a firm close underneath the 20 for the first time since the pandemic started. So some volatility coming out of the stock market. We also saw a pretty strong close for the dollar index on Friday, 92.76. If we dial in on the daily, you'll see here it did have a little bit of weakness through the trading session, but this really points to possibly a 94 as resistance, and also this 200 simple moving average, the green line here, acting as some form of potential dynamic support over the next week. Expect 93 and then 94 to be resistances, and if it does pull back, maybe the 200 simple moving average on the daily to act as some form of support. Just some key levels to be looking at over the week. US 10-year treasuries, something that people have been hyper aware of. Suddenly no one seems to care about them anymore, but we'll still follow them. We have to still look at them. They hit resistance, so we've seen the double top come down to the 1.6, which we correctly predicted together, and then we've had a retest now to the 1.672 after some structure was formed. So it closed on the resistance through the Friday session. Not too much to note there. If it continues to close up above this, look, we could see it go back to 1.75, and that may affect sentiment on the markets. But I've told you for some time, I still expect this number to eventually get back to that 1.952 level over the next couple of periods. I'm still not worried about that type of movement unless it gets above 2 and starts going crazy. Bitcoin traders, you guys should be happy. We saw that massive options expire. I think it's about $6 or $7 billion. It expired, and of course, nothing really happened. That's often what does occur into these events. There were some worrying signs coming out. People got a bit freaked out, and then all of a sudden, we've now broken back past our 54,000 area. And this really signals now a movement up to the 57,000 in terms of a bigger, stronger rally here. I think that's what we could be seeing over the weekend. We go down into the 4 hour, take a look at that really strong close. Now 54,000 will act as support, which was previously support and then resistance. And if we get rallies off that, potentially up to the 57,000 could be where we're going. So Bitcoin looking pretty strong, and same with the altcoins throughout the next couple of trading sessions. But be prepared for pullbacks into these areas nonetheless. Because gold and dollar index and all of these things are moving randomly, dollar index strength has been really hurting metals. Gold is almost untradeable at this time. It's 1730, but I'm not even going to cover it until something else happens because I want to see it break out of a zone. Silver will cover here. It's pulled back up to the 25, guys, and we know that was key support. You go through, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see this. Support, then it broke through, and it didn't hold underneath. Go to the daily here, you'll see what I mean. Look at this daily rejection, and it was pretty strong. Daily pin bar off the 24, kind of 50-ish zone. found instant buying pressure, and this week we wait to see whether we can get higher. I'd like to have a close above these highs here, this 25.30 area, to signal further bullish strength into the 26.40. But if we can't hold this level and it closes under here at any point, unfortunately, I could see it going back down to 24 or lower for silver. Expect 24 to be the next support after and if it closes below here throughout the week. So let's get into the stock markets. What's going on here? Well, Tesla is not doing the same thing as the rest of the market. So the rest of the market rallied. However, Tesla wasn't able to do so. And I think this is across all of the EVs. They're just not doing that well. Take a look here. We mentioned this on the live stream. The support was closed below. It came back and tested it as resistance, and then it sold off to 600, which was met by some buying pressure near the close of the day. Look, Tesla looks really weak on a chart. I think we'll have to revisit this throughout the week. If you were to say what's the bias on this right now, you would have to go with the price action is telling us to short it and to look for sells. There's just nothing strong about this chart. I mean, look at this. It looks like it's selling. It's come off the previous support, hit it as resistance at that 642, and then gone down to 600. So continue to watch this story as it comes through next week with the EV stocks, specifically Tesla, NIO, and others. We'll have to see how they perform over the news and over the events that are going to occur. AMC and GME, a little bit different scenario. So I thought 200 would act as resistance. I guess it did. We were talking about a more significant time frame closure above. The good news is, if it does close above on a 4-hour next week, so 4-hour on GME, then you'll be getting a confirmation above 200 and you can move towards that 240, 250 area, possibly even the 300 area. The bad news is it hasn't happened yet. 200 was too much for it. Every time it rallied, it was unable to hold through the Friday session, and AMC was the same. It went above 11, couldn't close with a 4-hour significance here, and then straight into the 10, where it did find some buying pressure at the close. $10 remains support now for AMC, and $9 for the week ahead, and $11 is the area that the bulls or the apes need to break through, and once they get there, then you can move towards 12. So all those lines, all those $1 increments become important, and for GME, it's all about the 200 break, close above. And if it keeps going down, of course, 120 was previous support. Underneath that, still the $90 is the rock bottom, where I expect some pressure purchasing as well. It's interesting on these charts, but very, very hard to navigate at this stage. Be careful as always, as they are a little bit gambly, as you guys know. US 100, Nasdaq, this is the chart we're all talking about. Wow, wow, wow. This is pretty damn good what's happened here. Big bullish pressure coming into the close of the day. The bulls were firmly in control, getting it well above that 12,750, 12,800. Now, I haven't edited these levels from last night's stream or from yesterday's stream. This was pretty damn amazing seeing that rally come through. It hit exactly where we thought it would for the day traders, 13,000 on the dot. The fence wins again, guys. For anyone that visits our live streams, you'll know what I'm talking about. We fenced this in the futures. We said no lower than 12,700, and luckily it did come through. 13,000 reached, acts as resistance. Now for next week, you're looking at a breach of that. Goes up to the 13,176. If it breaches that, 13,300 worthwhile watching. And then, of course, if you get through the 13,3 area, this is our larger inverse head and shoulders. So this is what's playing out at that stage. And you're talking about 13,600 into a 14,000 plus for the NAS. And it will be tech firmly in control if it closes past 13,300, if that rally does continue. Nasdaq, super important levels. All of those ones I just mentioned, put them on your chart, see how the market reacts to them, because they are key areas on this one. I think this is the most exciting index to be looking at this stage in the markets. The pure Nasdaq, not the futures, you'll notice it's the exact same thing. Big rally coming through to the 13,000, an incredibly important resistance to break through the Monday session and Tuesday sessions, which we'll be doing live. And then, of course, that 13.3 remains the key zone. Let's have a look at the SPX, because the SPX was even more powerful. It moved to almost all-time highs through that rally on Friday, 39.74. It looks inevitable that this market wants to go for the 4,000 next week. I'm thinking bullish in terms of just the price action, the way this rally occurred. These 2 days look very, very strong. The rotation continues into some of the value stocks for now. and then we'll probably see a rotation come back out, back into tech at some point, maybe after that 13,300 is breached. For the bears to get control of this, they have to sell it right now. Otherwise, I expect a break through 4,000, a movement up back into our God trend line. This level here has been such a good shorting zone. So will that be breached? Will that be hit next week? Will it be hit over the next couple of weeks? I tell you what, it looks like this stock market is ready for another takeoff in terms of through this resistance, but it needs to get through the barrier of the previous resistance. 39.83. We breach above that, we hit 4,000. I think it will go through 4,000. I find it very difficult to think that's going to be a resistance because of all of the random stoppages. 39.49 sells off, re-rallies just below, sells off. Now it makes me think it's all coiling underneath that for an explosion through 4,000. What do you guys think? Do you reckon that's going to happen? I tend to think it's pretty certain it will at this point when we're looking at it. Remember, guys, this week is non-farm payrolls week. It's also Good Friday. So that means that we usually have a bullish momentum coming into those events. I'm not sure whether the non-farms will kind of scare the market in the Thursday session, so be careful of that. And we'll be covering it all live and, of course, in our daily recap videos on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and have a great weekend. I hope everyone has a great one. Thanks for the support recently, guys. We got above 50,000. Now the road to 100,000. Yeah, we never stop here at FX Evolution. Bye for now.